Okay, so as we're doing the process of customer development versus old school product development, there's some tactics we want to employ to make sure that we're building the right feature set for the right product and service for the person or the group of people who we believe might find value in what it is that we're building for them. So now we're going to talk about tactically collecting data as we go through the build, measure, learn process that we always do as engineers and innovators. So again, as we're practicing customer development, instead of prototyping, which is old school, that's connected with product development. So we're going to sit in a lab or sit in our garage or sit in our room for the next 6 months or 6 years and build something. And once that thing is built, that's product development. We're going to put it out on the web or put it out on Main Street and say, okay, here it is, come and get it. And then it turns out only a handful of people really find the value in what it was that you put your head down and built. When you flip that around and say, let's develop the customer first, we want to constantly be learning as we're building the prototype what it is that they want. How can they solve the problem in their very unique context? And that's all based on identifying a very solid archetype and then interviewing 5, 10, 50, 100 people as you go through the design build process to gain insight into what it is that they need, not what you think they need. So that's the big pivot. That's the huge thing that I gave Steve Blank a ton of credit for earlier in this process, is that shift from product development, which is very ego-driven, to customer development is a huge shift that we're just now kind of getting out in the process of teaching new engineers just how extremely important that is. So here's an example of you doing, and I want to say, this is really hard work. So it's not like, oh, hey, let's practice customer development instead of product development. Customer development, if you want to get it right, if you want to be efficient about being an innovator, is sometimes even more difficult than being a product developer, because you can develop products in your underwear at 3 o'clock in the morning. You don't need to go outside of your comfort zone. You don't need to even get dressed in many cases. What you're seeing here is super difficult for a lot of different reasons. Number one, you're engaging other humans that you don't know or know less than rolling down to the kitchen and interviewing your parents and to try to gain insight. You're talking to people that might bruise your ego a little bit and tell you some things that you didn't expect to hear, in some cases don't want to hear, because of what you have perceived in your mind is the exact correct solution that they'll want, right? So look at these gentlemen here. The one guy with the clipboard, they're actually out on the street talking to 2 young gals who have come out of a clothing store, and they're interviewing them about the pain points associated with purchasing clothes and so on and so forth. So this is called interviewing, and this is the key practice of doing what we call customer development as opposed to product development. Of course, they're going to develop a product, and maybe it might look like this ugly baby prototype they have set up in the center of the photo, but 9 times out of 10, it's going to look nothing like what they've mocked up initially, based on what the customers are telling them that they're willing to do, what their pain points are, and where they're going to find value in removing friction from their clothes buying process. So here's a type of reaction you might get in having a conversation and showing some initially identified prototypes that might pop up. So this is obviously a positive reaction, reinforcing some hypotheses you've made about your feature set. But more importantly, you might want to look for negative reactions to reject some of your hypotheses. And again, look at this takes a lot of hard work to go out into the marketplace and talk to people that fit your archetype for either the end user or the payer or somewhere in between, whether they be influencers or other folks that might be aware of the problem statement. So the more people you talk to, the more you're going to learn about the assumptions you're making, both about the problem and also about your hypothesized solution and the features associated with that solution that you want to build, the product or the service. So keep your mouth shut, and your ears open and your eyes open and look for people's body language. So the customer development interview process is a very high contact sport. And if you want to get it right, if you want to build something that is going to change the world and really impact people's lives positively, this customer discovery and this customer development activity is absolutely key. So go out there, change the world.